Okay, today we are going to look at lab 5, which is user input if. So the learning objective is to create if else, and if statements. So let's start with a simple sample code where you are asked to create a program to ask user for input of his or her name, and a name is valid if the length of the name is at least 2. If the input is invalid, you will ask to display please key in name with at least 2 characters. So here we have the first line where we ask user for an input and store in the variable called name. And then we want to check whether name is valid or not. That is, we want to check whether the length of the name is at least 2. So if length of name is at least equals to 2, then it is valid. Okay, so if it's valid, we don't display anything. However, if it is not valid, then we will print please key in name with at least 2 characters. So we have this whole thing here inside the print. All right. Now this is one version. The second version, of course, is that if it's not greater equals to 2, if the length of the name is not at least 2, that means the length of the name is actually less than 2. If it's less than 2, that means it's invalid. You key in the name, you display this statement here to ask the user to key in the name with at least 2 characters. Okay, so this is just one if statement. Now the same thing for exercise, you are asked to create a program, ask user to input a phone number, and a phone number is valid if the length of the phone number is exactly 10. And if the phone number is not valid, then you are asked to display this message here. All right, so change here. So phone number, for example, and then enter your phone number. And here you're going to build an expression. Okay, so this is to do. You need to build an expression so that if this expression is true, you're going to print this. Okay, so you're going to write expressions for which that if this is true, a phone number, then you display a message. All right, so here it is valid, it will be of length 10. Only when it's invalid, then you display this message. So you basically will write the expression that if it's not length of the phone number is equals to 10. Okay. Now this is just an if statement. We also have if else statement. So again, let's go back to the first scenario where you're asked to create a program, ask user his or her name. It's a valid name if it has length at least 2. If it's valid, you display welcome. If it's not valid, you display this message here asking user to key in name with at least 2 characters. So we're going to use if else statement here. We have ask user for name. So if length of name is less than 2, that means it's invalid. We display the message. Else, then it's valid, because if it's not less than 2, it has to be at least 2. So it's valid. We're going to print welcome. Right? Now, similarly, you're going to perform if else statement on this exercise 1. So ask user for a phone number. The phone number is valid if it's length 10. So if it's valid, we're going to display connecting to the phone number. If it's not valid, we're going to say a phone number must be of length 10, for example. So here, I'm going to extend this version. Okay, so if the length of phone number is not equals to 10, you print this statement. Else, you're going to print this statement here, display connecting to the phone number. So you're going to do display. So this is to do. Write a print statement to display connecting to the phone number. Okay. Now, so far, our expression here contains only one expression. The statement to test is only one expression. You can join it with other expression. For example, a name is valid if it's not just that is if it has length at least 2 and it contains only alphabet. If it's valid, we display the input. If it's valid, we display welcome. If it's not valid, we display that it's not valid. A valid name must contain only alphabets and has at least 2 characters. So we have 2 conditions here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to join the 2 conditions together. So if the length of name is, so we're going to change this a little bit. So if the length of name is greater or equals to 2, and name is just contains only alphabet, so it's alpha. Okay, so if it's at least 2 characters and only contains alphabet characters, then you print welcome. Okay, else, okay, then you just, that means it's invalid. You just print invalid, input is not valid. A valid input must contain alphabets only, and it must have at least 2 characters. Okay. Now, as an exercise, the same thing. I'm gonna create this version for phone number. Now, phone number is valid if it has length is equals to 10 and contains only digit. Okay, so I'm gonna form here. So if it's valid, then I'm gonna print connecting to the phone number. If it's invalid, I'm gonna print a phone number must be of length 10 and contains digits on it. Okay. And what is this Boolean expression? So you're gonna create a Boolean expression, checking if length of phone number is exactly 10, so it's equal to 10. And so you basically have one expression, length of phone number equals to 10, and then followed by operator AND with another Boolean expression that is contain only digit. And phone number is digit, contains only digit. Okay, so for this part, use dot is digit. All right, so instead of name dot is alpha, we put phone number with an underscore in between phone and number, dot is digit. And here we will have length of phone number is equals to 10. Now, let's look at, let's improve this code here. So this code basically tell you that if it's valid, then you display this message. If it's invalid, you display this message. Now we want to be more informative of why it's not valid. So for each of the criteria that is not valid, we need to tell the user why it's not valid. Okay. So for example, if the input has length less than 2, then you display that the name must contain at least 2 characters. If the input contains not just alphabet, you display that the name must contain only alphabet. If the input is valid, you display welcome. Okay, so here, I'm gonna copy some of the, right? Okay, so first we have a couple of print statements, if statements. So if length of name is greater equals is less than 2, all right, then you print a name must contain at least 2 characters. Okay. If the input contains not just alphabet, then you want to print a name must contain only alphabet. So another if statement. If name dot, if it's not just contain alphabet, so if not name dot is alpha, then you print this statement here. A name must contain only alphabet. Okay. And if it's valid, okay, that means its length is more than at least 2 and it contains only alphabet, then you print welcome. Okay. Now, what is valid? So basically, it's valid is that length of name is at least equals to 2 and it contains only alphabet. Okay. All right. Now, this is one version, but this version is not optimal in the sense that you actually check that it's already whether it's less than 2 or not. So it's redundant to check it again here. The same thing, you already know that whether it's alpha or not when we run this if statement. It's very much redundant to run this statement again. So one thing you can do to change this, okay, is to create a new variable called isValid, which is first initialized to true. Okay. So if the criteria that length name is less than 2, then you know that it's invalid. Then you set invalid is equals to false. Okay. If it's not just contain alphabet, again, you set is valid is equals to false. All right. Now, you can just put if it's valid, then you print welcome. All right. So basically, is valid is initialized to true, and it will never change if it's valid. Okay, it will only be invalid if one of these two conditions satisfied. That is less than 2, then it's invalid. So is valid will become false. If it's not just contain alphabet, then is valid, it will become false. All right. Now the same thing, you are asked to perform the same, similar operations for phone number, right? So you have similar here. Phone number. So you ask user for a phone number. If it's the phone number is valid, if its length exactly equals to 10, it contains only digit. Okay. So if the input has length not equals to 10, you display a phone number must contains 9 digits. If the input contains not just digit, you display a phone number must contain digits only. If the input is valid, you display connecting the phone number. So let's do this. So let's look at the first version where you just run the if statement. So if length of phone number is not equals to 10, then you just print a phone number must contains 10 digits. 10 digits here. Okay, so you display this. Okay, another if statement, if not phone number dot is digit, if it's not just digit, all right, then you print a phone number must contains only digit. Okay, and if it's valid, that means the length of phone number is equals to 10 and phone number just contain digit dot is digit. Okay, then you print this statement connecting to the phone number. All right. Now, as I say, this code is not optimized. I want you to create similar code like this here. Okay. Where you don't do the same, you don't do test length of phone number equals to 10 and phone number dot is digit. Okay. Basically, you replicate this here. So phone number is equals to this. So modify the following code. Okay. Where you have is valid here. All right. Now you're going to do what is valid. Okay, so this is for you to do. And then if it's not equals to 10, what do you set is valid to? Okay. And the same thing here. Now, we have just talked about if statements. We also talk about if-else statements earlier on. There's also if-else statement. So in this example, you are asked to create a program to ask user for his or her name. If the input has at least length 2, the initial will be the first 2 characters of user input, and you're asked to display the initial. If the input has length 1, the initial will be just the first character of the user input, display the initial. If the input is just empty, display that name is invalid. Okay, so you just display that the name is invalid. Actually, if the input has just length 1, you can just display name as the initial. All right, so let's like this. So we're gonna borrow some of the codes here. Okay, so if length of name is greater equals to 2, so you set the initial, for example, is the first 2 characters of the user input. So it will be name 0. So this means extracting the first character of name, followed by the second character of name. Okay, that means extracting the value at the 0 index of name, extracting the value at the 1 index of name. That will be the first 2 characters of name. Okay. Now, L if, okay, length of name is at least 1. Okay, so if it is greater equals to 2, you take the first 2 as initial. Okay, so assign name to initial. Okay, so you assign and then you don't display. You only display when the input is empty. All right. So you assign initial to the first 2 characters if the length of name is at least 2. L if the length of name is just 1. All right. So it's greater equals to 1. So this test will only be executed if this test returns false. So if length of a name is not greater equals to 2, then it must be less than 2. And you say that if it's greater equals to 1 but less than 2, that means it has only length 1. Then you assign name to initial. So you set initial is equal to name. Okay. Else, that means the length of name is 0. Okay. Length of name is 0, is not greater equals to 1. Okay, you will execute this statement only if this is false. This is false means it's not greater equals to 1, is equivalent to length of name is less than 1. Okay, and the length of a string can only be integers greater equals to 0. So if it's less than 1, that means it is equals 0, which is equivalent to length of name is 0. Okay, that means name is empty. Okay, the input is empty. Then you print invalid input or invalid name. Right? So this is using if, and else statements. Okay. Now, similarly, we're going to create if-else statement. In this exercise, you are asked to create a program, ask user for his or her initial. So I'm going to borrow some of this code here. So enter your initial. Okay, if the input has length at least 4, so length, so this is for you to do. Okay, then display input is invalid. So we're going to print input is invalid, right? If the input has length 4, okay, exactly 4, then you display a new initial. Okay, a new initial is the length formed by the first character of user input followed by the third character of the user input. So for example, if input is AGDR, you display your new initial is the first character of user input, followed by the third character of the user input, that will be AD. Okay, so L, if length of the initial is exactly equals to 4, okay, I'm gonna put otherwise display your initial is the same. So if length of initial is exactly equals to 4, you define initial, you give a new initial. Okay, so this is to do. So write a statement to form a string of contains the first character of initial followed by the third character of initial. Okay, so to get the first character of initial, you do initial 0. So for example, you do initial 0 followed by means concatenate initial, the third character will be of index 2. Okay, so write it down here and then you're going to display. Okay, you're going to print your new initial is initial. Okay, L, display your initial is the same. So you're going to print your initial remain the same. Okay, so there will be 3 output. So we use if, else statements. Okay. Now, next, one of the important things when you ask user for input is to check whether the user input satisfies certain type. Okay, if it doesn't satisfy certain type, for example, you can't do, you want to do type casting. And here's an example where you ask the program to enter a number, a digit in particular that represent the number of tickets to buy. And then you will display the total price for the number of tickets. So ticket price, suppose, is equals to 5. So we're going to ask user for input, ticket number. So we ask user for input, enter number of tickets to buy. All right. And then you want to print. So the total price of the ticket, the total price is, for example, we have 5 times ticket number. So each of the ticket costs $5. So total price is 5 times ticket number, where we should just replace 5 with ticket price. Okay. So the number of tickets multiplied by ticket price. All right. Now this wouldn't work because input is a string. All right. When you do ticket price times a string, this will give us a it doesn't give us the right results. For example, say number of tickets to buy is, say I want to buy 2. It will give us the result that total price is 2222. That is because ticket price is 5, and then you multiply by ticket number, which is a string, represent 2. So it will concatenate this string 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 2. All right. As string, not as a number. So to fix this, we need to do typecasting. Int, right? Let's say 2 tickets. Now the total price is 10. All right. This works if the user key in the right number, key in something that can be converted into int. So if I key in something else, say 2.3, okay, I get a value error. And if I don't want this value error, I should, for example, want to create check whether the user input is valid before I do typecasting. All right. For example, I would say if so before I do typecasting, I will run an if statement. So if ticket num dot is digit, so it contains only digit. All right, then we will print the total price is this. And of course, we need to typecast ticket number. Okay, so else we print input is invalid. All right, so let's run this. So if I write, say, or maybe 2, I say I will get the output input is valid instead of a value error. Okay, now the same thing we'll do the same. So this where we ask user for input or number of amounts to withdraw from an account. Okay, you will display the balance remaining after withdrawal. And so suppose the account has $100 and based on user input, you deduct that amount that user input from $100 and you display the balance. Okay, so if user input value that is less than, that is negative or exceeding 100, okay, display input is invalid, right? So we assume actually as a starting point, we just if user input not a number, okay, not an integer, display invalid, display that the input is invalid, okay? Otherwise, display the balance remaining after withdrawal, okay? Right, so almost the same thing as before. So we have first asking, so the current balance is 100, okay? And then we ask for amount to withdraw, okay? Enter amount to withdraw, okay? So suppose your ATM can only withdraw floating point number, can only withdraw numbers that are integers, okay? Suppose, so if the user input must be an integer, okay? So we're gonna check if it's an integer. So this is for you to do, okay? Check if user input of amount withdraw is contains only digit. If it contains only digit, then we can do typecasting later. Okay. If it is, then you write the balance is the balance after withdrawal is something. Okay, this is for you to do. Okay, this is should be it should be balance, which is 100 minus amount withdraw. So write expression saying that balance minus amount withdraw. Else, if it's not, and of course you need to do typecasting here. So I can do. So I'm gonna do hint here. So in the following, fill in the write an expression. So you fill in the expressions or to fill in this X statement of balance minus amount withdraw. But you want, remember, amount withdraw is of type string because input is always of type string. So you want to typecast it to int. Okay, so this will be balance minus int of amount withdraw. So else you display that input is invalid. Okay, so this is exercise 5. And we're going to extend this further. Okay, so this is 5a. Can further extend it further. So 5b, for example. Right. So here, if user inputs a withdrawal value that is more than 100, okay, then you will have a negative balance. Or if user input values such as minus 200, then balance minus 200 means you actually increase the balance. So we want to fix this. Okay. If user input is an integer between 0 and 100, then you would display the balance remaining after withdrawal. Okay. If user input is negative or exceeds 100, display that input is invalid. Okay, with meaning this. So first, if it's not integer, you display that input must be integer. If user input is negative or exceeds 100, display that the input is invalid. The input must be positive and less than or equal to 100. Right, so you have a couple of if statements here. Okay, so again, balance equals to 100, amount withdraw is user input. First, check whether it's a digit or not. Check if amount withdraw contains only digit. Okay, now if it's not digit, okay, not amount withdraw dot is digit, that means you can't do any typecasting. You're gonna print input must be integer. Right. So else it's digit. So it's already, you know that it's a digit. So now you can do typecasting. And there are two cases. If the input is negative or exceed 100. So check. So this is to do. Check if amount withdraw is negative or is at least or greater than 100. Okay. Then you're gonna display that the input must be positive. And less than or equal to 100. Right? And else, that means the integer, if it's not true that it is, if this statement is not true, that means it must be an integer between 0 and 100. Then you can just display print the remaining parents. So your new balance is, so this is for you to do, which is balance minus amount withdraw. But remember, So reminder to do typecasting. And that's all for the exercise for this lab. Thank you.